The train rolled into the station like it was tired of running, iron wheels screaming against the track, coughing steam into the dry afternoon air, and Cole Mercer stood still at the edge of the platform with his hat pulled low, thinking he would stay no longer than it took to water his horse and catch the westbound line. He had said that before in other towns, and meant it just as little, but this time felt different, because, just as the train slowed and boots began to hit the planks, he smelled something that did not belong to coal or sweat or iron. It was sweet and green and alive, flowers, real ones, and when he lifted his eyes he saw her standing there like she had grown out of the dust itself. She could not have been more than 20. Hair pinned back, neat but stubborn curls escaped anyway. Dark eyes focused on the people stepping down from the cars. Her arms full of wildflowers wrapped in twine, yellow and white and purple like the prairie, had leaned in close to whisper something kind. She called out soft but steady, "Flowers for your journey, flowers for luck," and men brushed past her without slowing. Women smiled politely and shook their heads, but Cole felt something snag in his chest, a tug sharp enough to stop his boots. He told himself it was nothing, just the surprise of beauty where he expected only dust, yet his hands stayed loose at his side. Not reaching for his reins, Cole Mercer had made a life of leaving, not because he enjoyed it, but because staying had always cost him more than he could afford. Towns remembered him too well or not at all. Ranchers hired his hands and trusted his gun, but none asked his heart to linger, and that suited him fine, he told himself. He had learned young that roots could be torn out easier than they could be grown, and so he traveled light, a bedroll, a saddle worn smooth, a past that rattled like loose change in his pocket. Yet, as he watched the girl selling flowers laugh gently when a child reached for a bouquet, he felt the old ache stir, the one he kept buried under miles and miles of road. She noticed him then, not with surprise but with curiosity, like she had been expecting him all along. Her eyes lifted and met his, and she smiled, not wide or practiced, just a small, honest thing, and held out a bundle of blue wildflowers. "For safe travels," she said, her voice calm as still water. Cole almost laughed at that. Safe had never been part of his vocabulary, but he took a step closer before he remembered to stop himself. The train hissed behind him, doors slammed, someone shouted last calls, yet the noise faded until it felt like only the two of them stood in that space between arrival and departure. "What do you want for them?" he asked, already reaching into his pocket. She shook her head gently. "Just a coin or two." "Whatever feels right," she said, and that answer hit him harder than any demand could have. He dropped more than necessary into her palm, rough fingers brushing hers. A jolt ran through him, sharp and unwelcome. She blinked once but did not pull away. "Thank you," she said, and for a moment he thought she might ask his name, but she did not. Instead, she turned to the next traveler, offering flowers and the same quiet hope. Her name was Lila Hart, though he did not know it yet, and she had stood on that platform every day for 3 years, rain or shine, winter or heat, because trains brought people, and people sometimes brought change. She had learned early that waiting was its own kind of work. Her father had worked the rails until they buried him outside of town, and her mother sold flowers now to keep a roof over their heads. Lila believed that small things mattered, a bloom placed in the right hands, a smile offered without expectation. She watched the cowboy walk away with her flowers held awkward in his grip, and felt something twist low in her chest, something like worry, something like hope. Cole boarded the train late, finding a seat near the window. He set the flowers on the empty space beside him like they might bolt if he did not watch them. As the train lurched forward, he looked back, half expecting to see her already gone, but she was still there, smaller now, waving at no one in particular. The station slipped away, the town thinning into scrub and sky, and Cole told himself that was that, another face, another almost. Yet when he lifted the flowers and breathed them in, he felt the road inside him slow. Just a little. The train did not take him far, not really. Somewhere past the bend, where the land opened wide and quiet, Cole pulled the cord and stepped off at the next stop, a place barely worth a name. He stood there as the train disappeared, and felt the truth settle heavy and clear. He was not done with that station, not done with the girl who sold flowers like she believed people could still be saved by small kindnesses. He turned his horse back toward town as the sun dipped low, dust rising behind him. For the first time in years, Cole Mercer rode, not because he was running, but because he meant to stay. just long enough to find out why. When Cole Mercer rode back into town the next morning, the place noticed, towns always did when a man left and returned too quick, like the land itself didn't trust his reasons. He tied his horse near the station and stood there longer than necessary, boots planted, eyes searching. The platform looked the same. Sun-baked planks, pigeons fluttering, a few ranch hands waiting on freight, but she was not there yet, and that unsettled him more than he cared to admit. He told himself she would come later, told himself he was only passing time, yet his gaze stayed fixed on the far end of the platform like it might answer him back. Lila arrived with the morning breeze, skirt brushing her ankles, basket of flowers balanced against her hip. She did not see him at first. She was arranging the bundles, fingers careful, almost reverent. Cole watched the way she worked, like each bloom mattered, like nothing she touched was ever wasted. And when she finally looked up and saw him standing there, something crossed her face. Surprise first, then something warmer. "Slower, you came back," she said, not asking, not accusing, just stating a fact. He nodded, feeling oddly caught. "Figured I forgot something," he replied, and she smiled like she knew that wasn't true. They talked then, not about anything important at first, the weather, the trains, how the summer had come early and hard, but each word settled between them with weight, like they were laying boards across a gap neither wanted to look down into. Cole learned her name, Lila Hart, and the sound of it felt right in his mouth. She learned his, though he almost lied out of habit, and when she repeated it back to him, Cole Mercer, it felt like he had been named properly for the first time in years. People passed, trains came and went, but neither of them moved away from that small shared space. It did not take long for the town to start whispering. Towns like this survived on routine and rumor, and a quiet cowboy talking too long with the flower girl upset both. Men at the saloon noticed Cole's presence. Women noticed Lila's smile lingering where it hadn't before, and Lila felt the weight of those eyes even as she pretended not to. She had learned to endure looks, but this felt different, heavier, like something fragile was being tested. She warned Cole gently one afternoon, as they walked the edge of the platform together. "People here don't like changes that don't explain themselves." He only shrugged, saying he wasn't afraid of looks, but she saw the way his jaw tightened, like he had fought harder things than gossip. And lost Cole did not tell her everything, not about why he drifted, not about the ranch burned down in another territory, or the brother buried under a marker that read too little and meant too much. But Lila sensed the spaces in his story, the way he paused before certain words, the way his eyes tracked exits even when he was laughing. She never pressed, never pried. She had learned that some truths came easier when invited by silence, and so she filled the quiet with small things. Stories of her mother, of growing up beside the tracks, of believing that trains carried more than people, that they carried chances. Cole listened like a man starving for something he did not know how to ask, for the offer came sooner than Cole expected. A rancher outside town needed hands, steady ones, pay was decent, work was honest, and when Cole told Lila about it, he expected her to encourage him, to say it made sense, but instead she went quiet, fingers twisting the twine of a bouquet. "Staying changes people," she said softly, and he knew she was not talking about the job. He answered just as quietly, "Leaving does too." And for a moment they stood there with the truth stretched tight between them, neither willing to let it snap. That night, Cole lay awake in the small rented room above the livery, listening to the town breathe, thinking about the way Lila's face fell when she thought he might leave again, thinking about how icily he could saddle up and disappear before morning. He had done it 100 times before, but this time the road did not call to him the same way. This time there was a girl at a station who believed in small kindnesses, and somehow, impossibly, believed in him too. He realized then that staying was not about courage, it was about risk, and he had spent most of his life avoiding it. When dawn came, Cole made his choice without ceremony. He walked to the ranch and took the job. His hands shook only once when he signed his name. Later he found Lila at the station and told her simply, "I'm staying a while." Her breath caught, just a little, and she nodded, pretending calm, but her smile gave her away. Neither of them said forever, neither of them said love, but the town felt different that day, like the tracks had shifted just enough to carry something new. And somewhere between the whistle of a departing train and the quiet that followed, both of them knew that whatever came next would ask more of them than they had ever given before. The trouble did not come quietly. It never did. It rode in on hard hooves and harder memories. 3 men from Cole Mercer's past stepped off the eastbound train one evening just as the sun bled low over the platform. Men who knew his name before he spoke it. Men who remembered the fire and the gunshots and the night a ranch burned down under a sky too black to forgive. Lila felt it before she understood it, the way Cole's body went still beside her, the way his hand drifted closer to his belt without thinking. She turned to him, questions ready, but he only said, "I need you to trust me." And for the first time she saw the weight he carried, plain and heavy in his eyes. The town gathered without meaning to, as towns do when they sense a story reaching its breaking point. The men spoke loud enough for others to hear, tossing accusations like stones, calling Cole a thief, a killer, a man who ran when things burned. Cole did not answer right away, his silence louder than any defense. Lila stepped forward before she knew she would, her voice steady even as her hands shook. "He is not what you say," she told them, not because she knew every truth, but because she knew his care, the way he watched over her mother, the way he stayed. And in that moment the crowd shifted, uncertainty replacing certainty, and the past lost some of its grip. Cole finally spoke, telling the truth in pieces, about the ranch he tried to save, the brother he failed to pull from the flames, the men who fled and left blame behind them. His words were not polished, they did not beg forgiveness, but they rang true. The men from his past faltered, anger giving way to shame, and when one of them reached for a gun, Cole moved faster, not to kill, but to stop what had already taken too much from him. The sheriff arrived to break the moment apart, and by the time dust settled, the threat had passed, leaving only the echo of what might have been that night. Cole expected Lila to turn away, to decide that staying near him was too dangerous, too costly. Instead, she met him at the station after dark, lantern light catching the edges of her face. "I sell flowers to people who are leaving," she said, "because I believe in reasons to go. But I stayed because I believe in reasons to remain, and you are one of mine." Her words landed harder than any bullet ever had. Cole understood then that love was not about erasing the past, it was about choosing someone in spite of it. The town changed after that, not loudly, but surely. Cole worked the ranch by day and walked Lila home by evening, helping her mother mend the porch, fixing what was broken without being asked. The whispers softened, replaced by nods, then greetings. The station remained her place, but now Cole stood nearby more often than not, hat tipped, eyes steady, and travelers began to notice that the flower girl smiled differently, like she had found what she was waiting for all along. One morning, months later, a train arrived carrying an opportunity. A man offered Cole work farther west, better pay, open land, a future that once would have tempted him without question. Cole listened, then looked toward the platform where Lila arranged her flowers, and for the first time the road felt quiet. He declined the offer without regret, and when he told Lila later, she did not celebrate. She simply reached for his hand, knowing the weight of what he had given up. The seasons turned, flowers changing with them, and one day Cole brought Lila a ring, not bought but forged from silver, traded and saved. He knelt, not because he was asked to, but because he wanted to mark the moment. She laughed through tears and said yes before he finished speaking. The station bore witness, just as it had from the start, trains coming and going, but the two of them staying years later. People would still speak of the flower girl and the cowboy who chose to remain, how love grew in the space between arrivals and departures, and how sometimes the bravest thing a man could do was not ride off into the sunset, but turn his horse around and stay. And if you ever passed through that small town and saw flowers laid near the tracks, without a seller in sight, you could be sure of one thing: the reason to stay had already been found.